Man, your book looks so new.
It's not covered with the oils of love.
I don't know if I like that. What you just called it.
Well, that's why your pages are so yellowed.
Well, I also bought that book like 4 years ago.
And you've read it like 3 times.
The physical copy twice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had it for a while. Should we start?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to our discussion of the Stormlight archives.
Woo!
My name is Momin Ahmed, and I am joined by...
Me, Colin Sculler, and this is the bad boy we're talking about today. You want to give a quick rundown of what exactly we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, sure thing. So I have been very quickly reading through Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight archive. I very recently finished the second book, which is Words of Radiance, and then jumped right into the bridging novella Edge Dancer. I finished this book this afternoon, actually.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, I finished it.
Wow.
This afternoon, and obviously I have a ton of thoughts about this series, but what we're doing today, which is a little bit different from how we discussed the first book, which is The Way of Kings, is that was a very unstructured discussion where we both just kind of said a lot of things. But right now, Colin has got in front of him a chapter-wise summary of Words of Radiance, and we're just going to try to walk through the entire story of the book and talk about some of the major character arcs, themes, and just basically have a sort of literary analysis and vibes-based discussion around this novel.
So one thing that I want to kind of just say out loud so we are both aware of this, there are 89 chapters, not including the interludes. So we'll have to be a little bit careful with how we do it.
Yeah, so I don't think that we are going to touch every single chapter. I think the idea of having the summary in front of us is to sort of, because this book is so big, have a sort of guideline in front of us so that we can reel in our discussion and are not going all over the place all the time, which I felt like we did the first time we recorded it. But I want to pick up this discussion. I want to get back into talking about Words of Radiance, which I thought was a very different book from The Way of Kings.
Really? How so?
I don't know. Like, the story was all similar. Like, the vibes and the writing style and everything is all great. But I think one of the major shifts in this book comes from the perspective of Kaladin.
Yeah.
Because in the first book, we got to meet Kaladin Stormblast, the captain, and were immediately transitioned into Kaladin the Bridgeman, who was enslaved and was very, I don't know, depressed, I guess is the word for it. And the contrast between the despair that Kaladin felt and his resolve to help Bridge 4 in the first book made Kaladin a really inspired character. I really enjoyed following Kaladin's perspective to the point where in the first book, when the perspective would change from Kaladin to somebody else, I would often be like, I don't want this. I want to hear more about Kaladin. Go back to Kaladin.
Weren't you saying that for Shallan, though? Like, I thought you were on the Shallan boat where you would be like, I finally get to read more about Shallan.
That is correct. So for the first book, now we're still talking about the first book. For the first book, it was like, it started off with Kaladin, and I was like, I want to read about Kaladin.
Okay.
And then there was halfway through the book, there was this shift where I was like, actually, I want to read about Shallan. Kaladin's fun and all, but I want to read about Shallan. In this book, I didn't have too much of a strong connection to Captain Kaladin. I enjoyed the chapters thoroughly, but I felt like Captain Kaladin is an entirely separate person from Bridgeman Kaladin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. All right, so do you remember exactly what happens at the start of this book? Where we pick off from Way of Kings?
Where we pick up from Way of Kings, or are you talking about the prologue?
Oh, shoot. I forgot there was a prologue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about the prologue. You'll have to remind me what it is, though.
I don't have to remind you shit. You got the summary in front of you, but I will remind you the prologue. The prologue, well, actually, I really, really enjoyed the prologue.
Oh, it isn't. Okay, I only had the chapters pulled up, but I just looked a little bit further up. Okay, I see it now.
There you go. You found it.
Yep.
I did glance at the summary page, and then I stopped looking in case there were spoilers there for the other books because we're on the wiki for.
Yeah, we're using Coppermind right now, and of course, there are spoilers if you kind of follow some of the blue text to go to other places, especially when names are said. But in the context of this, I won't have anything spoiled just because I've read it all. But hence why I'm making sure that we don't accidentally give you a spoiler.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have the laptop and I don't.
But yeah, let's talk prologue.
The prologue was fun, actually, because the prologue picks up from Jasna's perspective on the day of Szeth assassinating Gavilar.
Yeah, do you see a common trend here at the starts of some of these books? The prologue of book 1 was Szeth, Sanson Villano. Now we have the prologue of book 2, Jasna Colin. So something going on.
I have absolutely no idea. Maybe you'll find a pattern in this if I read a third prologue.
A pattern.
Yes, a pattern. I have a lot to say about pattern as well. I don't know if I'll be able to cover it in an hour or hour and a half, whatever we have in the studio. But like the prologues all being so far about the day of Gavilar's assassination is really fun because we're getting a lot more context about it. And we're getting a lot more context about Jasna in the prologue, which was really fun because it starts off with her experiencing her first dive into Shadesmar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she accidentally ends up in Shadesmar, almost drowns in the glass beads, and then I don't know if she's actually soul casting or what, but she is using the glass beads to defend herself against the Spren that are like watching her there, or maybe, I think one of them tries to attack her as well. And then she finds herself back in the real world where she encounters a really interesting conversation between two passersby, which I don't remember the exact conversation that she had. I just remember that they were talking about something that made me be like, why are they here? This is a very Chekhov's gun thing to do right now. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now just to see. She meets with an assassin.
Yeah.
An assassin was like, yo, hey, I might want to assassinate someone. And there's a brief conversation. Her name was Liz.
Yeah. But I'm not talking about her conversation with the assassin.
Oh, the one that she overhears.
Mm-hmm. So before that, she overhears a conversation between two passersby, and then she goes to the assassin, and the assassin she is hired to spy on, I don't remember who. I think she hired her to spy on either the Queen of Elethkar or Ellekar's wife, and I don't remember who right now.
Ellekar's wife.
Ellekar's wife? Yeah. Okay. Because, like...
Aesudan.
Okay, so because I didn't remember who she was hiring for the assassins for, because in my mind it was like, oh, it was for the Queen, right? But she's only the Queen after Gavilar's death. So it was like, that's why I got confused, because it's hard to follow where Ellekar is in all of this, because Ellekar is a whiny bitch and I don't really think about him too much.
Especially today. There's one thing I did want to add to this. You said that she overheard this conversation. Can I read a description for you?
Yes, go ahead.
It becomes really, maybe a little bit more obvious once we've talked about Edge Dancer a little bit more. But so the two pass through the intersection ahead of Jasna, blah, 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 including the Azish man with the white birthmark on his cheek, or was it a scar? The shorter of the two men, he could have been Alethi, cut off when he noticed Jasna. So those are the two people. Well, one really quick description of one.
Okay. I think I forgot those details about his description obviously because this is like very early in the book and I would not have remembered that description. But having read Edge Dancer, that description is a little bit more familiar, very fascinating. But the prologue was really interesting because of, one, it's the first time we see Jasna learning about her powers. don't fully understand how Spren bonding works. I don't think the book has tried to make that clear so far. Nevertheless, the prologue was pretty fun because it ends with Yasna's perspective on Gavilar's death, and then we also get to see that one little snippet of the leaders of the Parshendi basically saying that we had to do it. He was about to do something really dangerous, which by the end of the book sounds like it was related to the Voidbringers.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when she... Oh, man, there's a lot of this I don't remember. She never gets a chance to talk to her father, does she?
No, she has a conversation with him.
It says here that... This is something that we can kind of cut out, but it says here that she catches the conversation with dude with scar on his face, and then immediately following that, hears screaming and starts running, following destruction to her father's room, and then basically sees the two of them, the fight over, basically.
So what I remember from the book, I don't know what the summary says, but what I remember from the book is she overhears the conversation, and she does catch up with Gavilar for a brief conversation before he returns. She has a conversation with Gavilar for certain.
Maybe at the party before she splits.
No, it's in the back rooms because Gavilar is talking to somebody else, and then she has a conversation with Gavilar, and Gavilar says something about how she's like really smart and she could like. I don't remember exactly what Gavilar says, but Gavilar has a bit of a short conversation with Jasna. And if it's not Gavilar, it could have been Elokar because my mind is all over the place. And I keep confusing who's king in which timeline.
There was a conversation that Gavilar was having with Amaram at the start, but then it transitions to Yasna's perspective, and then Yasna never has a conversation with Gavilar. Sorry, hate to break your bubble.
Yeah, maybe I don't remember. But in my mind, I feel like in the prologue she had a conversation. I think we've spent a long time on the prologue, and it's time to move on to the next part.
We have, okay. I think the next part of this conversation will go a little bit more quickly, just because now we have the character arcs bleeding into each other as we kind of go. But it starts off with Shallan. Shallan on the boat, asking for some weird accommodation to go take a mental picture.
Yeah. Shallan's fun. It starts with Shallan on the boat. Yasna's on the boat with her. They're going to the Shattered Plains, which, to be honest with you, was one of the things about the book that I was kind of a little bit not certain about. Okay. Because in my mind, this is just the second book of 5 books, but I guess when the books were coming out, nobody would really know. In my mind, I feel like the characters all met each other way too quickly. Because in the first few chapters of Shallan's story, which I'll talk about a little bit more, she ends up in the Shattered Plain, meets Kaladin, meets Adolin, meets Dalinar, meets Navani, and it's just like, it's all too convenient. Nevertheless, it starts off with Shallan wanting to dive into the cold, frigid oceans of the Frostlands to take a picture of the...
Starts with an S.
Slanshid.
Schlanschlid?
Yeah.
The Santhid.
Santhid. I was close.
Yeah, you're pretty close. You're pretty close.
That was fun. It was the first time she actually ever really, like...
advocated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She put her foot down.
Yeah. She used the commanding... Was it? It's the commanding presence of feeling like you need to achieve something, kind of like what she took away from how Yasna was trying to teach her about presenting yourself.
Yeah.
Presentation, as Megamind would say.
Oh, I forgot about Megamind.
Yeah, Megamind.
That's a good movie. You should watch it again.
That would be great.
Yasna teaches her about, like, presenting her authority. Like, you're only as well-respected, as much respect as you give yourself or something like that.
You're a light eyes, own it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're a woman and maybe got some boobage.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
You're a regulation hottie. What's the next line? Own it? I think it's own it.
Okay, I don't know that
This
line.
is a Mean Girls reference.
Oh, okay.
We're making our own set of references.
That's why I wouldn't know it. Oops. I've seen Mean Girls. What the hell? How come I didn't? Anyway.
You're a regulation hottie, own it. I think that's the exact line. We should watch Mean Girls again. Nevertheless. And she, you know what? Shallan is a mean girl, I feel like. She's Katie.
She's a bad bitch.
I like her. She does all of this. She learns about soul casting, and then Jasna's like, soul casting is dangerous. Focus on illumination instead, which she does. And then she catches a glimpse of Jasna's friend, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, those details have left me a little bit, but I do remember, after I'm kind of glancing at this, that yeah, there are little bits and pieces of like, oh, you get to see this one thing. But at this time, she's spending a lot more time entertaining Pattern. Well, maybe entertaining is the wrong word. Maybe keeping track of is a better one, because he just likes to wander.
I like the characterization of Pattern, because like you can tell that he has an annoying high-pitched voice. Right? Yeah, like because he's always buzzing, he's always vibrating, so you know exactly what he sounds like. And I do like that he starts off similar to Syl, like he starts off like completely oblivious how the world works, and he's sort of learning as Shallan is teaching him, and his obsession with lies and good lies and believable lies and stuff like that makes him a very interesting character.
Okay. Lies, real lies. Half-truths, real truths, all of the truths.
Yep.
The juicy ones.
The juicy ones. Well, the most important thing that happens in Shallan's story at this point, you know what? Maybe we should just go story as a summary of the character up until they all get together, because the next thing that happens to Shallan is that she's attacked.
Yeah.
Which is the big major thing. Here's the thing. They get attacked. Shallan is able to use her illumination thing to throw off the bandits or pirates or whomever is attacking, because at the point we don't know. And then she is safe, and Pattern is able to overhear the conversation amongst the pirates, and they're just executing everybody on the boat. And Jasna has been stabbed through and through, and she is dead.
Bleeding out.
Bleeding out.
Dead, really dead.
Bleeding out.
Bleeding out.
Yeah, just dead, you know? And I did like that, because when I read that, I was like, plot armor, she's not dead. And then for the rest of the book, she was just dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, respect, kill Jasna. Of course, we'll come back to that, because I read the entire book, of course, under the knowledge that Jasna is dead.
Of course.
Because Jasna is dead.
She's dead. And then there's a novella that talks a little bit more about what happened.
Is there?
Yeah, it's recent, brand new.
Oh, I'll have to read that eventually.
You'll read it eventually. It's not really relevant, but it's still fun. I haven't read it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was really cool. And then Shallan does do some amount of soul casting, which she is...
And what does she soul cast?
She soul casts the ship's hull. We'll get to the stick in a minute.
No, I wasn't talking about the stick. But yeah, she soul casts the boat, turns it into... Do you remember? It's not really important, but...
I don't remember what she turned it into, but she just like got rid of a portion of the hull so the ship would capsize. I think she maybe turned it into water. I don't remember.
I think she maybe did.
Yeah. And then the ship sank, and she survived because of plot armor.
Yeah. Or something else. Something like Stormlight, just huff it in, just survive.
Possibly. Plot armor might not apply to Shallan in this case, because you could say, no, there's narrative reasons why she survived, and she had the Stormlight and blah, 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 blah. The only thing else that survives with her is a trunk full of Jasna's notes. That's plot armor.
That is a little bit.
That's plot armor.
Well, have you ever been in a shipwreck before?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever seen a shipwreck before? I mean, maybe there's a chance that since they're so close to the coastline anyway, that after she soul casted basically the boat into nothing, all of the components of the boat just drifted to shore. Things that floated, aka trunks with air inside of them, could have made it, but who knows?
Well, yes, sure. I've played Peak when we're talking about being stranded on islands or whatever, or similar situations. I've played Peak, and lots of suitcases end up all over. Yeah, the trunk was bing bong, and all of these suitcases end up all over the island, right? Even though the plane crashed on shore. So I can understand that perspective of luggage being strewn about everywhere, because it's a video game and there's plot armor. But there's an illustration in the book where it's like a bunch of notes written down about something that had been recovered from the depths of the ocean, which is a part of Jasnah's notes, which I found really interesting because that event did not occur in the book, where somebody went and recovered Jasnah's notes for either Jasnah or Shallan, which like then why include that illustration in this book? Nevertheless, it was there, and I thought that was kind of cool. Shallan finds herself trying to soul cast a stick into fire, and the stick stubbornly insists, I am a stick.
I am a stick.
I am a stick. I am a stick. I don't think she succeeds. She doesn't.
I don't remember.
She doesn't succeed.
But then she, after that, she's essentially as close to death as you could probably get, being not really having anything available for yourself, like food, water, shelter, fire. She stumbles into a group of people, right?
She does.
Were these the same group of people that then she convinces to take her to the Shattered Plains, or was this a different group? I can't remember.
She runs into a character that I expressed much love for when we talked about the first book.
It is them.
Slave trader Tvlakv.
No.
Yes.
No. I look at it right now. Tvlakv.
Tvlakv. No, or Tvlakv. Who cares? It's a
Anyway.
stupid name. I don't like it, and I don't know how to pronounce it. And I don't think that people who... Because he is... what's his race again? Thalen?
Tvlakv?
Yeah.
Tvlakv. Yeah, he is Thalen. Oh, wow. I forgot about that. Yeah, he's got the long eyebrows.
Yeah.
The eyebrows the long way.
He's got the long white eyebrows, which he tucks behind his ears, which is a really, really cool character detail for like a race of people, which like, I don't know if I've seen that done before as a character design thing, which I really like. And then she finds Tvlakv and two of his bodyguards and a group of slaves that they're transporting away from the Shattered Plains, not towards.
Yeah.
And then she goes, excuse me, I have light eyes. You will do what I say. And then they agreed to take her. While they're taking her, she does the whole thing of like trying to be an authority and everything, and they listen to her. And she does a bit more of illumination to make herself look bigger and more intimidating, and that works, which I think was a really cool touch.
You know, maybe fill out the
Yeah, exactly.
a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. I should remind you, Shallan is 17.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I think she's hot, but she is definitely doing things to appeal to her audience, not the audience's readers, but the audience she now finds herself a part of.
Sure, whatever you say. But nevertheless, she does this. She intimidates the slavers and is able to convince them to start moving towards the Shattered Plains. And in the meantime, they are being pursued by turncoats and deserters and
Deserters.
And then they find another party of travelers where they have two options: either go to the other party or wait for the deserters to catch up to them. They decide to go to the other party. Turns out the other party is being raided by bandits, and they're all gonna die unless they have someone to protect them. And Shallan,
It's like the Battle of Five Armies from The Hobbit. You've never read The Hobbit.
I've read The Hobbit.
You did? Yeah. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Ah, okay. You're not missing much, but you've read it. Okay.
I have read The Hobbit, and I insist that the book is so much better. The Hobbit book is so much better than the Lord of the Rings books.
Well, I actually can't disagree with you because The Hobbit was meant to be a children's book. It is a children's book.
Sure. I mean, I think Lord of the Rings is also meant to be a children's book by that metric.
But okay.
But I don't want to offend the Lord of the Rings fans, so I'm going to move on and continue talking about
We'll talk about Lord of the Rings another day.
Yeah.
But you have Shallan and Tvlakv appearing and being like, "Uh-oh, what do we do? Do we go confront this or do we go confront that?" They book it into town. Then she convinces them that somehow, some way, they need to defend against the people who are coming in. Basically, take her and Tvlakv's caravan into the bigger one, and then basically protect themselves against the deserters that are on the way. But then you have Shallan going and doing something that I did not imagine she would do. Basically just going and walking up to the deserters being like, "Hey, what's up?"
That was a fun scene. I really liked how Shallan kind of grew into using her illumination power, because she goes up to them and she's like, I'm going to present myself as this beautiful, radiant, majestic creature
Yeah.
who is so much more capable than Shallan would ever be, and convince these hardened men that they need to restore their honor. And she promises them that all their debts will be forgiven, all their crimes absolved when they help her get to the Shattered Plains. And they listen to her.
The amount of bullshit that she just gave them is immaculate. I feel like Pattern was really eating that shit up. He was like, oh yeah, just keep talking. This is great.
Her lies had no legs to stand on, but she just was like, she rolled an nat 20 on persuasion.
Oh, absolutely.
And so and that was a fun scene. Then after she does the convincing, she gets taken up by, what's her name? The leader of the
Yeah, what
bodyguard.
is her name?
Starts with a T, I think. What's her name? Tell me.
I'm having to get there. Hold on, give me a second. I'm having to skip through a bunch of chapters.
I bet I'll find it.
Tin?
Tin. Tyn.
I don't know how to. Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to spell it. I'm looking.
It's Tin. Tyn.
Oh, cool.
To think that we are currently talking about stuff that happens before the first interludes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. But yeah, Tin takes her in, shows her a little bit of what's going on here, and then eventually they make it to the Shattered Plains. But I feel like you'll have a lot to talk about that intermediate between when they arrived or when Shallan arrived, and then when they arrived at the Shattered Plains.
So her interactions with Tin were fun. They reminded me a little bit of. Have you read Song of Ice and Fire?
Half of the first book.
Okay. So
is Song of Ice and Fire the whole series, or is it just the first book?
The series is Song of Ice and Fire. The first book is Game of Thrones.
Okay. Yes, I've read half of it then.
So you have read the first half of Game of Thrones, or the first half of
the first half of Song of Ice and Fire.
So you've read multiple books.
Say that again.
The series is A Song of Ice and Fire, and the first book is Game of Thrones. What have you read?
Okay, I heard you wrong for some reason, and my brain wasn't computing what you said. I have read half of Game of Thrones, the first book. I have not read half of A Song of Ice and Fire, which would be half of the series. I have not.
Yeah, so I have... Okay, we're kind of getting a little bit off track here, but the point was, in A Song of Ice and Fire, the character of Sansa is mentored a little bit indirectly by Queen Cersei.
Well, I've seen Game of Thrones, so I know.
Okay.
So I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. So that mentorship that happens, the Shallan plus Tin had that vibe, but in a more comedic way, right? It was like a funnier version of that interaction. I feel like it was very short. It went on for multiple chapters, but it almost feels like it could have gone on a little bit longer. Like she should have had more time to learn from Tin. Like she had so much time. She had an entire book to learn from Yasna, and that made sense. And she had like 3 chapters or something like that to learn from Tin. So I feel like that interaction could have been longer.
Yeah. And then it happens.
And then it happens because Tin doesn't believe that Shallan is who she says she is.
She figured this out so quickly, like within the shortest amount of time. I don't even know what it's like in universe, but it was really short.
In universe, I think they'd only been traveling together for a few days. And yeah, I think it was just a few days. And the reason she figured it out wasn't because she pieced it together. Tin wasn't like smart enough for that. Is because she was using the span read to communicate with the people in Tashikk, I think. Was that the place?
Or was it Azir?
One of the two. Like basically they had this like information hub set up where they were conveying a lot of information all over the world through span read. And she had a contact in that area. And that contact let her know that, hey, someone matching this description was on the ship where Yasna was killed, and she found out that, and Shallan found out reading the same conversation, that Tin was involved in Yasna's assassination. So now Shallan's mad at her.
Yeah, Shallan is mad at her. Do you remember what, I can't remember the exact dialogue of what Tin says, but it's along the lines of, oh, you gotta be fucking with me.
Yeah. When she finds out that Shallan actually is who she says she is.
Because she's sitting in the room, isn't she? Like, she's sitting there and they're talking about something. And then that comes across the span read. Shallan glances at it, Tin glances at it, and it's just like, oh my fucking God. Like, that was just a perfect moment for that.
Yes, it kind of plays out exactly like that, which is really funny. And then they like get into this squabble, they fight, and
10 heartbeats.
Then the 10 heartbeats. Like from the first book, we have been given these breadcrumbs that Shallan understands shard blades, and the 10 heartbeat stuff is going on. And now this time around, she actually summons her shard blade and is able to kill. She kills.
Kills, real kills. Real kills.
Yeah. She shard blade kills a person right in front of our eyes. And this is the same Shallan who, when she received her lesson in philosophy from Yasna a few months ago in the alleyway where Yasna used soul casting to kill 3 people, she lost her mind. She was traumatized by it. And then she's out here like, yeah, I'm just going to swipe this shard blade. My mic. She's going to swipe this shard blade and kill this person. Like, I get it. She's doing it in self-defense, and she knows that Tin is capable of murder because Tin is a mercenary, murderer, assassin, whatever. So she is defending herself, but it just seems to come out of nowhere. And then what's perfect is that there's one of her bandit bodyguards.
Yeah. What was his name?
It starts with a T. I think they all starts with T. No, it starts with a V.
Vatha. Vatha was the one from the Deserters. Vatha.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Vatha.
Yeah. So Vatha and Gaz were 2 of the people there.
Yeah.
Gaz, whatever.
Either or.
Yeah,
but
so they're there.
But Gaz shows back up.
Yes, we have a return of Gaz, which is really fun because he was missing in the last few chapters of the books and the first book, and nobody would tell Kaladin where Gaz had went.
I can just kind of get the gist of what was happening to Gaz, where he was supposed to kill Stormblast by stringing him up in the storm. Sadeas caught wind of it and was like, whatever. And then Gaz being just so humiliated at everything that's happened, the Bridgeman being taken away by Dalinar, he just kind of is like, well, I'm just going to fucking head out of here because I know what's going to happen next. I'm just going to get strung up the same way. So he's just, peace out.
He, in the second book, he gives the reason for him leaving that he has too many debts.
Debts to pay.
Debts
Lannister
to pay.
always repays his debts.
Exactly.
And he's no Lannister.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he could be Tyrion.
He could be. Gaz isn't that short, is he? He's not a dwarf.
I don't remember. Nevertheless, what I find really fun about the moment where Shallan uses her shard blade and kills Tin is that Vatha sees her with the shard blade and he's just like, holy shit. She could have just been out here killing everybody, and she came and gave us an opportunity. Like his like loyalty does a 180 that moment. He's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna be.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Do you think that this is more of like a logistical thing? Do you think that we should hop to Kaladin after we talk about Shallan making, not just getting to the war camps, making it to some, I can't remember exactly what meeting it was, and she just appears and just puts High Prince Sabariel on blast, and then end Shallan's arc here with her essentially at that point, so then we can talk about Kaladin, and then as we talk more about Kaladin, weave the story of Kaladin into the present, into Shallan, into the Adolin conversation. I'm just now realizing that there's a lot of talking that we could do, and it feels so disrespectful to not talk about it too, because they're all so important for these characters, and just like skipping into the book, which I'm not going to do verbally, would be like, you're like, what's going on? Like, anyway.
I think I do want to like spend some time talking about all the other characters, but like I'm having so much fun talking about Shallan.
Shallan is fun to talk about, and I'm appreciating her story so much more by talking about it with you. Because I'll be completely honest with you, I will stand firm. I was a Shallan hater for the longest time. Hater because I didn't want to listen to her stories. And the split personality thing I thought was interesting. But besides that, I could have cared less what was happening with her storyline. I was like, get me back to the man in blue. Let me see him whip around a spear and be depressed with it and just tell me more. But now I am appreciating Shallan.
No,
Thank you.
I feel like that's like the reflection of our personalities as well. Like, I can totally understand why you were so much more interested in reading about Kaladin, because to me, Kaladin reads like an action movie hero, and I kind of get that you are a little bit more into that stuff than I am. Action movies to me are so boring because I'm like, they're always the same thing. The hero always does something impressive, and that's what Kaladin is. He's this.
No, he doesn't do something impressive till the end of the book.
He always does something impressive. That's his entire character. Gets strung up in a high storm, survives, leads Bridge 4 out of desperation and depression, and eventually frees Bridge 4, rescues Adolin and Dalinar. And even in this book, he starts training the all the surviving bridge crews to become guardsmen and all that stuff. So Kaladin is always doing impressive things, and that's like his action hero perspective. He's the one who does the things, and that's why it was so much fun to see Shallan actually do action hero stuff when she whips out the shard blade and kills the person, and then she has like this more like she is the mysterious spy, and Kaladin is the out front general soldier, like, you know, the leader basically.
Do you remember exactly what she does when she gets to the war camps? I'm bleeding it's just a gray haze of events that happen. I don't have a context for the order, but she arrives.
Okay,
and what does she do?
She arrives at the war camps. She's
No, we need to go back. There's something that happens between the attack on the thing and her arriving in the war camps that intersects with Kaladin for the first time. I really think we need to talk about that for just a brief second.
Okay, we can talk about her first encounter with Kaladin, which I texted you about. I'm not going to bring that text up right now because I don't have my phone. But like, it was such a funny, weird interaction where she pretends to be a Horn-Eater princess. Tin is there with her, and then she makes Kaladin give her
your boots.
Gives her your boots.
I want your boots.
That was
no. It's you disrespect boots. Give me boots.
Yeah, which does a great. I think it does a lot for like elevating the tone of the story. Like the Stormlight archives are not meant to be, as it seems, like a very depressing or dark story. There's darkness in it. There's depressing elements and the heavier themes in it. But the writing style is like a little bit light. There's funny moments in there, and so like those moments are fun. Where like Shallan's like, "Give me your boots," and she says it in a crazy accent. Like that's fun. I was so thrown away by like, what's the expression? I was so thrown and taken aback by the fact that this was the first interaction between two major perspective characters, considering these are the two Surge Binders that we have been following so far. The only two Surge Binders that we have been following so far. And this is the interaction that we see them meet each other in. And that was like a little bit like jarring. I was like, I felt like this should be something grander when two Surge Binders meet, you know? But then it's just a little jokey encounter of her being like, "You give me your boots."
And then Kaladin just literally being like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And he's like, he's looking around, he's feeling the pressure from the squad that he's out riding horses with, and he's like, "Fine, just take him. I don't care." He cares a lot, but he's like, "Just take him."
Those were his new
boots.
Were
his new Dalinar Colin issued not J's, Yeezys. No, Yeezys, Jordans, whatever we want to call them. They're both shoes that people like. Not me, but...
No, I'm not much of a shoes person, so I don't really know.
Adidas, the brand new Adidas.
No, honestly, I don't know enough about
Red
boots
Wings.
to even continue to make this joke.
They're brand new Red Wings. That's what it is. I like work boots, so I'll vouch for Red Wing. Not sponsored.
Wouldn't that be nice? that was a fun encounter. Shallan then arrives at the war camps. Eventually, she presents herself as a nice, respectable Light Eyes, and then she makes her way straight to. She finds herself at the. Does Elhokar live in Dalinar's war camp? No, he has his own royal war camp
Sebarial.
palace. No, not Sebarial. I'm talking about Elhokar.
Oh, Elhokar lives up in like the mini palace
The
that they
palace.
built. The palace is in close proximity to the Colin war camp.
Right. So she goes to Elhokar's palace where the king is having a large meeting with the high princes because they're discussing what happened at the end of the first book, or near the end of the first book, which was the attack by Szeth on Elhokar. And she finds all the high princes there. She was able to make her way in. Her betrothal to Adolin is well known at this point. She's able to storm her way into the war chamber where she meets Kaladin first. Again. And is able to like reveal herself as Aelin's betrothed. She gives him something of written material, which Navani reads and confirms that she is that woman.
That was a really hard encounter for me when like seeing Navani just basically shut down and go into full like, thank you for this information. And then just being super blunt, she went into professional mode. You've lost the personal Navani. And then, yeah.
And then when she's in the war meeting, she's already she learned this from Tin essentially. This is one of the moments where like Tin's influence coming through, where she's like she will not live on Dalinar's war camp and she will not serve as Dalinar's clerks because that will give Dalinar too much power over her and not enough freedom for her to do her job, which was continue Yasna's research to find the lost city of Urithiru. Urithiru. I don't know. I've been saying Urithiru.
Urithiru. There's a t-shirt for it.
You would know a lot about Brandon Sanderson merch, wouldn't you?
Sure would.
Anyway, so she picks a wild gambit where she's like, "Oh, Sebarial has already Sabarial? No, I think it's Sabarial. No. We'll have to ask Brandon Sanderson himself.
Sableye.
You
can call him Sableye.
Yes, Bright Lord Sableye.
Spits out his wine like, oh, just sitting back there in the back of the room, not really paying attention, maybe being like, yeah, maybe remove some of my tariffs or let me trade more. The man just goes, she's mine. And then how much did I promise you? She gives her retort, and then his eyes bulge out of his face and is like,
yeah, her gambit is that if she can convince Sebarial to keep her in front of all the high princes and promise her a particular stipend or whatever,
she'll be set.
Then he has to do it because now everybody knows. There was a really fun interaction where she then goes and sits behind Sebarial, and I want to say Sebarial because I think that's how it's pronounced because they mentioned some glyphs at some point which I'm assuming are supposed to rhyme with his names. Nevertheless, she goes and sits behind him. And he like whispers to her and he's like, that was like very clever of you. And she's like, yeah, well, whatever. And he says, the only reason I kind of played along with it is because you're interesting. And
it seemed to piss off Dalinar.
Not Dalinar, the other high princes, because the other high princes were all like, will you come with us and spend some time with us or whatever? Because they wanted information about Yaakoved. And they're like, this is the first person from Yaakoved that has come to the war camps in a long time. And clearly it's an important Light Eyes. So they wanted to have her so that they could get information. So he knew it would piss off the other high princes if she was with him. And that's why he was like, you're interesting. That's why I'm letting you stay here. And then Shallan has the rest of her story. Now you want to talk about Kaladin?
Yeah, we can talk about Kaladin. Kaladin's story just kind of, even though I say I like Kaladin's story more, I would be more interested reading his stuff. I'm glancing through these and I'm realizing that Kaladin's story really doesn't change after he has been promoted to Captain Kaladin of the Cobalt Guard and is now Dalinar Kolin's personal guard and to guard the king because, of course, Dalinar is trying to be extremely careful with how he navigates his relationship with Elokar, even though he doesn't really do it all that well because of the paranoia that's going on with Elokar. I'm now looking at this and I'm like, yeah, no, he runs around, pointy spear. Okay, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that for you. I'll protect, I'll do all these things. Dalinar's really just kind of pushing him around. He's like, I'll still give you some of your own time. And then all of a sudden they're in the sand arena and then they're training. I just remember that as like the first thing that comes to mind because there's just a lot of stuff, busy work.
Yes. And I think I said this as well. I don't remember if I said it on the podcast or if I said it to you separately, that I did not like Captain Kaladin as much as I liked Bridgman Kaladin. And you're kind of getting to the heart of it. And the thing is, there's a line in the book, I don't remember it right now, but there's a line in the book where Kaladin is reflecting on his own life as a captain, and he kind of identifies this exact thing where Captain Kaladin is boring and Bridgman Kaladin is exciting. Right? And I found it really interesting that it was the line in the book that was part of Kaladin's own reflections, because that's one of the issues that I had with Kaladin's chapters in this book is that they felt monotonous. There was a lot of stuff happening in them. Like they would go into the chasms and Kaladin would train his surge binding, and he learned how to more reliably stick things to actually, that might have been in the first book. In the first book, he learned how to stick stuff to the walls and stuff. But in the second book, he was training more to walk on walls. Because at the end of the first book, he saw Seth walking on walls and stuff, and he wanted to train that as well.
So he does find a way to escape Dalinar's watchful eye and get excuses to go down into the chasms to train you. I think you are remembering correctly. It wasn't just in the first book. Because in the first book, he didn't even know how to really lash himself upwards, let alone do anything else. He was able to use them, both his surges, kind of sparingly. Like it was more instinctive than it was reflexive. Or no, it was a little bit more instinctive and not as like directed, like I'm going to do this thing. He just did a thing. But I do love remembering him trying to lash himself to the wall and constantly just eating shit. And then eventually he figures it out and everyone's like, oh my gosh, look at him do this thing. And then he's just standing there like, wow, this is cool. And then he just falls to the ground.
Yes, that was fun because, so for Kaladin's chapters, the more like appeal is that he's learning to use his surge binding.
And this is the first time that we've really had an opportunity to see a surge binder kind of blossom with their power, because Shallan is blossoming with her skills, but she doesn't have a good group of people to help her with that. She's just doing illumination. She's just light weaving. But Kaladin, you really get to see him like sit there and be like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? And to me, it was kind of like a Kung Fu Panda like training that he was doing. So
I did really enjoy the fact that Kaladin had his group of inner Bridge 4 people to sort of keep him, like give him that company. Like he is not a solitary person. One of the things that was happening in Kaladin's chapters was that he was learning how to learn his surge binding, but he was also establishing a Bridge 4 identity, which was really cool. And in establishing a Bridge 4 identity, he did the tattoos. The salute was from the first book. And that was, I believe, Teft who brought the salute in, and then Lopin and Rock and everybody would do the salute. So Bridge 4 had their salute. But the thing that really set the Bridge 4 identity in the second book was when all original Bridge 4 officers, now officers, went to a tattoo artist and got the Bridge 4 tattoo glyphs tattooed on their foreheads. And it would say stuff like that the glyphs would translate to they were members of Bridge 4 and the year in which that they were, or year or time and when they were freed from their bonds as slaves.
Yeah.
And another thing that I found really touching in this moment was that after all the core Bridge 4 got their tattoos, Shen, the Parshman, also came to get a tattoo, which I really, really appreciated.
One thing that I do want to talk a little bit, because of this such a sentimental moment, most of them got the tattoos on their forehead as kind of like a symbol to his Kaladin's Shashbrand. But there was a couple that didn't get them on their forehead, and they wanted it in more of an inconspicuous place. Moash was one of them. I think where did he put it? His shoulder? Do you remember?
I don't remember the detail of exactly where, but he did not get it on his forehead. Moash was the first, and I believe only, of the inner group Bridge 4 people that did not get it on the forehead. And like Kaladin wasn't going to force him to do anything that he didn't want him to do. Which, now that I'm thinking back about it, it's interesting that he wanted to conceal his Bridge 4 tattoo, because he also joined another group of loyalists. Moash's story is quite interesting in this book as well. I don't think it had come up at this point, but the other thing that's happening for Kaladin is learning of Moash's conspiracy to assassinate the king, which he has joined with. We don't know early in the book who these people are, but they're these Light Eyes who are clearly well connected, and they want to eliminate the king because they think that Dalinar should be the one on the throne and not Elhokar. And of course, we know by the end of the book that they are part of the group of people known as what was it called?
What's their name? I'm trying to remember.
It was literally on the top of my tongue while I was saying the sentence, and by the time I got to the end of it, it went away.
Do you remember the name of the man who kind of was leading that little subgroup of those people? Graves?
Yes, I think his name was Graves. I don't remember the name of the woman, because they also had a spy in Dalinar's camp. She had been trying to court at Adolin, and then he broke up with her.
That's right.
So she was one of the spies for there. They were called God, it's on the tip of my tongue.
I think I know a couple names of a couple organizations. I'm not saying
so you
them
shouldn't say it
because I don't want to accidentally alert you to something.
Yeah, whatever. They're part of the plan that Taravangian is making.
Oh, the diagram.
The diagram. I was like, I know it's
that's right, because Graves references the diagram.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah, Graves references the diagram near the end of the book, but Kaladin's involvement with the conspiracy is really fun because it's the only point of tension in Kaladin's story throughout this book. Because he is going to kill Syl.
And it's that's a big point of tension, because all of his relationship with Syl has been manifesting as him swearing the second ideal during the end of the first book. And then you get this kind of a steady state plateau with moments of regression of him really wanting to do the right thing, but then finding a way to re-rationalize the wrong thing as the right thing because of Bridge 4, because of all of these people that he's saved. He's like, I should be doing it this way, but you can tell that he's really struggling with the right thing, which is to not kill someone.
It starts off very much like he knows that assassinating the king is a wrong thing to do.
He does, and he kind of just convinces himself that it is the right thing to do. And I would say that probably after he convinces himself, and after Graves and Moash really keep talking to him and getting these ideas bouncing in his mind, he rationalizes that it is the greater of two wrongs in this case.
I believe, if I'm remembering the exact timeline of events correctly, he is convinced by Elhokar's betrayal.
Elhokar's betrayal of
So throughout this book, Dalinar has convinced Adolin to restart dueling.
Yeah.
And he's dueling so that he can win shards from other high princes.
Because they're trying to neuter the other high princes and get them into submission. Because Dalinar is now the high prince of
war.
Yeah, he's the high prince of war. So he's like, I must unite them. And how do I unite them? Taking their shards, turning them into little babies so they listen to me. Yep. That sounds like the Blackthorn trying to do something.
I think Dalinar's idea was pretty funny. Like, I thought it was like, well, if they're gonna behave like children, I'm gonna treat them like children. I'm gonna take away their favorite toys, and then they're gonna have to listen.
And honestly, I'm not too upset with his decision, because he just got abused and abandoned by Sadeas. And at this point, if I was Dalinar, I would kind of be pissed and out for blood and give no shits about anything I'm doing. I'm just gonna do what I think is the right thing. And if that means having my son, the best dueler the world has ever seen, go dueling, so be it.
So that was a really fun scene. So what you're talking about, them training in the sand and stuff. So they meet this ardent Zahel, I believe his name is, who trains Light Eyes and Shards. And the idea is that Bridge 4 and the other Cobalt Guard should at least know how to defend against swords and shards.
Can I borrow your book?
Yeah. Should at least know how to defend against swords and shards if there's a possibility of the assassin in white ever attacking again. But then after some training and some interesting duels by Adolin, Adolin finds himself in a pretty sticky situation where he has accidentally agreed to a 4-on-1 duel.
That was such... during my first read through, didn't catch his verbal blunder, but I was aware that he potentially blundered something, especially with his conversation with Navani, and leading into it. I'm like, this just feels too good to be true. And then, of course, lo and behold, when I was listening to the book the second time, when he said that line, I immediately was like, oh, he totally fucked that up. Not just a little bit. He really... Because he just kind of kept talking. He didn't give a second to consider what he was saying. He was just so caught up in that moment that he was just like, let's do it. And the other person's like, are you sure about this? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, see you in, was it like a day or two? A week? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, but then he ends up in that duel thinking he's actually agreed to a 2-on-1, but he ends up in a 4-on-1.
Yep. He ends up in a 4-on-1. And oh boy, Dalinar loses his shit in front of the High Princes. What is he? He like screams, "Where's our honor? Who amongst you will fight for my son?" He looks at Elhokar. Elhokar's like, I'm not losing my shards. And then Captain Kaladin, being the man, the absolute Giga Chad that the world needed. Well, honor's dead. I'll see what I can do. And he just yeets himself into the arena.
So you see what I mean when I say Kaladin is the one who just does the action movie thing?
He just has so many funny one-liners. Well, funny and badass or badass. Because going into that, Kaladin was like, what the fuck am I doing? The only time it's crazy because he has fought a shard bearer and won. Whether or not he did that through honorable means is a different story. But now he's going into an arena full of 5 total shard bearers with a fucking spear.
6 shard bearers.
Well, that's right. Renarin shows up.
Well,
I should say in full plate. 5 full plate, 6 shard bearers. And then, I kind of forgot Renarin was there. Glad you reminded me.
Because Renarin is also a full shard bearer. What happens with Renarin, because I've been calling him Renarin, because that's how my brain reads it.
He didn't get suited up in plate. He just wandered out there. Wandered. Is probably a wrong word. He was not in full plate. Because he... was he? It doesn't matter. It's not important.
So I don't think he was in plate.
What happened?
Yeah, he wasn't in plate because keeping him safe was a super important priority for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think he did pull out his shard blade, but he just probably had one of his episodes and then couldn't fight and whatever.
That was actually, I wanted to. You got there before I did. He summons a shard blade and has an episode. That was something that I found really interesting that happened in that moment because we've had glimpses of his episodes, but we've never seen one. And then later, Kaladin talks to him about the types of seizures he's had and goes, Surgeon Cal. And he's like, why are you so educated as a light eye, or as a dark eyes? And he's like, I don't know if he tells him or not, but it was an interesting little bit.
But there's also something interesting about Renarin's episode is that even in that moment and after when he has this conversation with Kaladin, it does feel like this was an unusual episode for Renarin, and we don't know yet why. But that's fun. And then they fight, and then Elhokar, and then he helps Adolin win, and then Elhokar's like, "You deserve a boon for this," and Adolin's like, "I want to duel High Prince Sidious."
Here, right now.
And then Adolin jumps in and says, "And for my boon."
No, not Adolin.
Oh,
Kaladin from the basically was the forgotten side character here. And for my boon, every time I hear that, my heart just drops. I'm like, you he did the right thing by doing that, and Elhokar could have not just been a little bitch about it and could have just nailed down Sadeas here and there, but he didn't. Elhokar let his pride take over and be like, you what now? And then in the meantime, Sadeas was able to take advantage of the complete discombobulation of and for my boon to weasel out of that duel right then and there. Because even Adolin, being as exhausted and as tired as he was, probably would have won. Because Sadeas probably is not a very good dueler. And maybe even then, there would have been enough time for Adolin to get replated up in his dad's shard plate or something, right? If they locked him down, it was game over.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I meant Kaladin. I don't know why I said Adolin, but it was a very funny moment. He gets betrayed. He gets stuck in jail for a couple of weeks, and he is a total bitch about it.
Oh my gosh!
Like Kaladin is so dramatic.
I'm trapped in jail for who knows how long. I'm gonna go be depressed and think that my life is so terrible. And what did I do wrong? Then Adolin, just chilling.
Oh yeah, because when he goes to prison, unbeknownst to Kaladin, Adolin also is like, I'm going to stay in a cell just as long as Kaladin's stuck in a cell, which was a very nice gesture from Adolin. But one of the fun things that happens during the duel, which is a really interesting thing that we haven't seen before, is Kaladin stops a shard blade by slapping it between his hands, and then both he and the shard bearer who's holding the sword hear the screams.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. Both the screams, but just the insanity to do what he did. And it doesn't just happen once in this book. It happens again, doesn't it?
It happens once in the previous book.
Oh,
when Dalinar slaps a shard blade that the assassin was using.
That's right. It was in the first book.
Yeah. So he sees Dalinar do it in the first book, and then he replicates it in this book. And it was really interesting because this is the first time that we had seen Kaladin touch a shard blade, and then he experienced those screams. And then, but also it kind of drove the shard bearer kind of crazy hearing those screams, and he ran away. And of course, Kaladin is in prison for a few weeks, which was a fun touch. I want to jump forward in time and talk about the moment when Shallan and Kaladin get their moment in the chasms.
Yeah. Well, I really want to just talk about how they got there really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're going out on was it like a late chasm run or something, or Gemheart run? And Shallan wanted to, of course, study one of those. And on the way, they get sabotaged, and the bridge collapses. Kaladin, so majestically pushes, was it Dalinar, was it Navani, someone off the bridge, and saves them, but in doing so dooms himself, or would have doomed himself if it wasn't for the for the Stormlight. And of course Shallan gets caught up too. So now you have the two surge binders at the bottom of the chasm looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened?
It was really funny because the reason they went out into the Shadow Plains for this expedition was because Shallan wanted to study a chasm field chrysalis, but that was just the excuse. What they really wanted to do was Dalinar wanted to continue mapping the unexplored areas of the Shattered Plains. He wanted to, because he had already decided that come the Weeping, he would push with as many High Princes as possible to attack the Parshendi at their home base. And so he wanted to map the Shattered Plains as much as he could, right. And that's when they went out and they were sabotaged. The bridge was destroyed, and a bunch of people ended up falling, but only Kaladin and Shallan survived the fall, and both of them think, oh, my surge binding saved me, and must have accidentally saved the other as well. And they're both giving each other excuses about why the other or both of them might have survived. And then throughout their expedition in the caverns, in the chasms, Shallan is drawing maps, and she's clearly a better navigator down there than Kaladin is.
Yeah.
But then through it all, they encounter a chasm fiend, which this is the first time that we actually have characters actively engaging a chasm fiend inside the chasms. We've had the chasm fiend fight in the first book with the king and everybody else, but this is the next time that we're seeing this happen. And then they are outmatched, obviously, because the chasm fiend is a massive monster and they have no means of fighting it. And Kaladin's like, well, you need to get back to the war camps. It doesn't matter if I don't make it, blah, 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 blah. And then Shallan does something crazy. She's like, at least use this.
And just huzzah.
And she just gives him a shard blade. And what's fascinating about this encounter with a shard blade is that it doesn't cause any screams. Kaladin is easily able to wield this shard blade. He's not particularly skilled with the blade, but he is Kaladin Stormblessed, and he's able to still use it really effectively, and he's able to fight and kill the chasm fiend with a little help from the illumination surge binding coming from Shallan, which he didn't realize was happening because he was like, wait, how is she over there? I thought she was over there. What's happening? And then that duplicate illusion version of Shallan helping him take down the chasm fiend. And then they carve a hole in the mountain using the shard blade to weather out the high storm. Throughout this entire time, Kaladin cannot call on Syl because he has made up his mind that he will help Moash kill King Elhokar. And Syl, the last thing we heard of Syl was her screaming and then just vanishing.
I can't remember if it was before or after the storm, when they just got basically holed up in the chasm wall, barely surviving the flood through the slot canyon, basically. And I can't remember if it was before or after, but Kaladin kind of confronts Shallan about the darkness inside and cannot believe that someone like her, a Light Eyes, who is constantly smiling, jesting at people, being funny, can be someone with that much trauma inside. And I think that moment, at least for me, was really beautiful because Kaladin's like, oh, maybe I don't have to be a grouch all the time, but then immediately continues being a grouch. But it was fun. It was a really fun moment. Heart to heart, more heart to heart than most people would ever get. And coincidentally, it's two trauma bonded people with Spren. So it's kind of fun.
I went into that scene. It was really fun. I did like that Shallan sort of let the curtains drop a little bit and expressed her sorrows and her harsh past as well. And throughout this time in this book, we are seeing these flashbacks to Shallan's life at her father's estate, which I really want to talk about, but we'll get to that in a minute, which I did really like that heart to heart. And one of the things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit about this entire encounter was it built up the possibility of creating a romance between Kaladin and Shallan, and I don't know if the book wants to go that way.
Whoa. Bad romance. Okay.
Yes, it was bad romance indeed, because I would
forbidden. It's so forbidden. The dark eyes and the light eyes, the one who's betrothed to another.
Yep. So all of that, I understand why that's a compelling plot line for a romance, but it pissed me off. I was like, no, I don't want a romance between Kaladin and Shallan, because that's so obvious. It's like, oh, these are the first surge binders we followed through the entire book. The first two perspective characters that we followed outside of Szeth were Kaladin and Shallan. So it's like, it's so basic. It's too simple. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I want to ask, what do you think is going to happen, given what we have yet to talk about Shallan and Adolin and Kaladin and Shallan, or maybe even Kaladin and Adolin?
So I think they're going to start a throuple.
Oh my god,
that's the only reasonable explanation. Because obviously Adolin loves Kaladin, and he loves Shallan, and Shallan probably cares about Adolin and tolerates Kaladin, and Kaladin tolerates Shallan. So all of this is a perfect throuple circumstance,
I'm thinking of love, and I was immediately thinking of Bridgefor's love for Kaladin, Bridge 4 literally just stood out there and was like, he's coming back.
He's coming back.
And Dalinar is like, everyone grieves in their own way. It's fine. I'll let them do what they need to do as long as they're just not getting in the way of everything. And then he like sees like all of Bridge 4 and he's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I get that this guy survived a high storm, ooh, maybe. And he's, you know, everyone calls him Storm Blast, but like, they were in the fucking chasms when a high storm hit. There's no way they're alive. Or let alone they survived the fall. So he's just like, he's dead. There's another captain gone. Well, whatever. I have to deal with this mess. And then they just fucking show back up. How many days later? Like 3-ish?
I think they show up
It was after the high
a
storm.
day later because the high storm,
high storm
was the night
Yeah.
of the fall.
Yeah, so it was like just like a day later, just appears out of nowhere, and they're just like, then Dalinar's like, there's something up. When does he confess? When does he confess to Dalinar? Is it not until the end of the book? He has moments he could confess, and he really contemplates confessing that he is a Windrunner, because at this point he does know that he's a Windrunner. Is it Sigzil is the one who's telling him a lot of the stuff that he's learned about Knights Radiant, because he trained under someone that we have met.
So Sigzil has been telling him about the world because he's a
world singer.
A world
Yeah,
singer.
he's a world singer.
It's Teft who's been telling him more about the Radiance.
Teft. Did Teft? Oh yeah, I mixed their two knowledges together. That's right. Teft was telling him, and Teft, I love Teft. Just like this grizzled, like grumpy old man who's been in the army or military. Military is a better word. One thing that I want to touch on was the instance of the attempted assassination on Elhokar on the balcony. You remember that?
Yeah, it was right after a high storm, and the balcony like had been cut, and it was revealed that it was Moash and his goons, not his goons, but the goons.
The goons, Graves and his goons, yeah.
Yeah, so those
But
guys.
there is also something really interesting happening with Elhokar in those moments, because like he's so paranoid, and it is like, to me, I was so like, okay, we get he's paranoid, but like this is like kind of going too far. I kind of feel for the man. Like, you're seeing, you feel like you're seeing shadows in the corners. You have the one attempted assassination attempt. You have the second assassination attempt, the very obvious one. And you're just being told by everyone, it's fine, don't worry, it's fine. If I was him, I'd be so anxious, and would be getting so drunk every night. And wow, he does get drunk every night, basically. But of course, you're the king. You can do whatever you want.
So, well, he can't do anything he wants because his uncle is Dalinar Colin.
I can't be a good king. I can do anything I want, but I can't be a good king.
But during the whole like assassination attempt situation that was happening, when Kaladin was trying to piece together what had happened, and he realized that the balcony had been cut with a shard blade, and that Elhokar was the only person that had been out there. For a moment while reading the book, I was like, is Elhokar trying to stage his own assassination? Does he want to like convince people that he's being like there are assassination attempts on his life or something like that? Is he the one behind all of this? And it was a stupid theory, but for a moment there, it almost felt like Elhokar himself was the one behind all of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wondered if it would have come out to be the thing that was happening to kind of convince his family that something was happening. I see that as maybe a little bit more like respectful than how he was treating it before, just because he's trying to get his family to care about him in that kind of familial sense. Like, please care about me. I know that you care about me, but more of the position of me, not me. And I think that there's a lot of just like distress going on, that he's A, not communicating well to his family, and B, going about his actions extremely wrong. But he's having to live in his father's shadow, which is really unfortunate because his dad didn't advocate for him. Gavilar even was like, I have this bitch of a son, in some instances. And Elhokar kind of knew that, like, he's not going to live as, his dad would. And now he's just there, just doing what he needs to do.
So far, I have not encountered any instances of Elokar and Gavilar interacting.
No. But
So-
just through their conversation of Elokar talking to Dalinar about his relationship with his father, you can clearly put together that Dalinar is kind of treating Elokar like he's not the king, and then Elokar is like, "Don't be like my dad. Like, don't do these things." He talks a little bit about stuff like that, but anyway.
He definitely discusses like his insecurity about how he says it later on in the book where he discusses with Kaladin about how he's like, Kaladin always knows what to do to get people to like him, and I don't know what to do to get people to like me. I'm a bad king, and he was so drunk and so whiny at the
Is
time.
that when Kaladin was guarding him one night? Like he was on the king's guard basically that night?
That was when Kaladin was injured after the Chasm Feed incident, and Elokar and the armies had left for the Shattered Plain.
Oh, that's the night. That's
Yes.
the night, yeah.
Yeah, and then Elokar visits him in the barracks to be like, I wanted to speak to you. You didn't come to my palace. And he expresses his insecurities there as well, because he's like, I sent you a summons as the king, and you, a mere soldier, ignored my summons. Like, that is the influence that I have as a king, that even a ruddy old soldier just ignores my orders.
It's crazy how Kaladin supposedly hates Light Eyes so much and just despises their status and is just very much so against the status quo. I guess most Dark Eyes are probably against the status quo too, but like is against the Bright Eyes status quo. But then he flaunts around like he's the Light Eyes in instances, like that one, for example, or he just thinks he's kind of above these certain things, is to me a really interesting character dynamic, because usually like you don't go back and forth with those. To me, in my mind, it's like you either think you're above or you're probably below, or you're acting like you're below. But he's constantly weaving back and forth between these avenues of acting and speaking like a Light Eyes, and then acting and speaking like a Dark Eyes. So it's really fun how you not only get the emotional roller coaster of Kaladin, you get essentially the status of Kaladin whiplashing back and forth all the time.
So I have a thought about that as well. I don't think he's ever behaving like a Light Eyes in the sense, because he doesn't believe in the separation of Light Eyes and Dark Eyes outside of the people who are currently Light Eyes are assholes.
He speaks to Dalinar like he's just a like a grumpy man that he works with. Doesn't use very proper honorifics when talking to him directly. Dalinar comments on that a lot. He does in the presence of other High Lords or Bright Ladies, Bright Lords. Constantly is talking to the king very casually, which most Light Eyes wouldn't do that way, with maybe the exception of Dalinar and maybe Adolin, family. He's maybe the better word is he's not so much thinking that he's a Light Eyes, but is kind of emotionally more of like family in a way to the Colin kingdom or the Colin family.
I don't think of it like that. I think of it like
he himself doesn't think that he's family, but he is talking to them on a level of familial relation, because he's ignoring all what's the word?
He's ignoring all propriety.
Propriety.
He is setting aside all of society's rules about who can and cannot speak with such authority, because he doesn't believe in that this authority should exist, and he sees that he is capable, he is strong, he is well respected, and so he doesn't believe that he should have to subdue himself in front of anyone, including Light Eyes, just because they're Light Eyes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna run into the same problem we ran into last time, which is that we're running short on time. So what I want to do is talk about a couple of things that were really interesting to me. One is, of course, the fight against the Parshendi. We didn't even talk about Eshonai, and we probably won't have time to talk about her in detail, but she is such an interesting character. But the fight against the Parshendi on the Shattered Plain, the actual war that occurs, like that's like the return of the Voidbringers, essentially, as this book has claimed it to be. I have a theory that the Parshendi are not the Voidbringers, but I could be totally wrong about that.
Okay.
But that fight, of course, is really cool. And then, of course, there's the return of Syl to Kaladin, because Kaladin recognizes his broken oath, and Syl's insistence Syl's insistence to the Stormfather that she has chosen him and she doesn't care that he'll kill her.
He
or
is
whatever.
mine.
Yeah, so so of course he gets his powers back. He is able to learn that he can have Syl as a shard blade, and then we learn that all shard blades are born of Spren, but the ones that people can bind are the ones that are made of dead Spren, while Kaladin's and Shallan's shard blades are made up of living Spren, and those ones then therefore don't scream at them when they use them, which is, I love that. I feel like the whole like moment where I want to get your perspective on this, because I feel like you probably had a very strong emotional response to the return of Syl and how Kaladin is able to say the third
The third ideal.
the third ideal of the Windrunners.
He's speedrunning the ideals at this point.
So I want to hear from you how you responded when you first read that scene.
Man, it's like bled across 3 reads. So I remember when I was first reading it, my first read through, since I didn't have a lot of direction for what was happening, I kind of missed the ideal, because I like read the ideal and of course it's like written on the page, the third ideal of the Windrunners or something. So like I didn't miss that part, but I kind of was missing some of that emotional importance for Kaladin as a character, and was like, this is super cool. He, steps into the shoes that he should have been in this whole time and succeeds, protects Elhokar, flies off, fucks up the assassin in white, kills him basically. So you have this just huzzah moment where you just have a whole book of building and then failing and failure to just at the end kind of come away as kind of top dog. On my most recent read through, I've been really paying attention. I was to Kaladin's story because I knew the last book was going to go heavy on Kaladin's story. Ooh, kind of spoilers. But it was a really emotional one, just because I know how far Kaladin has come since then and what he had to come from before. And seeing him speak the third ideal was really beautiful for me on the last read through, especially given the context of everything he was fighting with mentally at that time. I still cannot believe that the man stood back up like a third time after basically being pulverized. Like he was just a standing husk of bones and crushed organs, and it was just like, come at me. And like Moash just kind of was like, what are you, stay down. I don't want to do this to you. But I even think about it hypothetically. If Moash would have just done what he needed to do sooner, Kaladin would not have had a chance to speak the third ideal, and the books would be very different. And honestly, not that that's a good way that the books could have been written, but it would have changed a lot of cool dialogue, and I'm happy with the way that it went.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the storm, the Everstorm being summoned on the Shattered Plains, because of course Kaladin ends up there too, right? Eventually, lashes his way across the Shattered Plains to get there. Poof. The cavalry has arrived. Not that he changes the course of the battle, because the battle's already kind of been decided at that point. But I think it's fun if you give a little bit of insight on like what transpired and the significance of where they go afterwards.
So the storm being summoned, the failure to stop the Parshendi from summoning the Everstorm, it's all really well done. I really enjoy all of that sequence because there's a lot of actual feels like there's a lot of tension there. The fight on the plains is not it wasn't crazy. I don't remember it super well. Mm-hmm. The fight really begins, in my opinion, when Szeth arrives.
Yeah.
Right, and Kaladin learns that Szeth is here. And he's flies across the Shattered Plains to get there, and he finds them, and the entire real battle is Kaladin versus Szeth. And there's this one moment where one of the High Princes, Royan,
yeah.
He gets lashed a million times to the sky, and then he falls down and then splats onto the earth. And he's the one that Sabariel had been calling Sabariel, whatever, had been calling a coward this whole time. And then he, like, the reason he ends up lashed like that is because he jumps in to protect Dalinar, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But then Dalinar ends
Then
up lashed
Dalinar gets
1,000 times up as well, which is so silly, which is like, Zeth, you have a shard blade. Just finish the job. Why are you showing off like this? And then Kaladin shows up and lashes him the other way and protects Dalinar, and Dalinar descends
But
slowly
does
like a
Zeth
princess.
really want to be killing these people?
He does not want to be killing them. Doesn't mean that he shouldn't be effective about it. He's
So-
been very effective.
Maybe he lashed him upwards on the off chance something happens, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Zet's out here hoping that a Surge Binder shows up and protects down. Maybe he was, because he knew Kaladin was a Surge Binder.
Yeah, maybe.
Nevertheless, he has his entire fight with him, and Syl comes back and she becomes an honor. She's an honor, and she becomes a shard spear.
Yeah,
And they have and then she have a full shard battle in the sky. The skies are mine. I claim them.
Yeah, that's a good line. Beautiful one.
And then after the fight, he's able to kill Zeth, of course. And we know he's killed him because his shard blade is no longer bound to him. He loses the connection to the shard blade. And then Kaladin takes the shard blade, and the shard blade doesn't scream because it's not made of spren, because this is not one of the regular shard blades. This is one of the honor blades given to the heralds by the Almighty, and then the heralds did what they did.
And then darkness shows up.
He doesn't show up here. Well, he shows up later. He shows up, Nin or Nalan or whatever his name is, Nelen or whatever.
Nin, Nail, Darkness.
Darkness.
Nalan, yeah.
And then he revives Zeth and gives him a spren to bond with, to hopefully making part of the Order of the Skybreakers, which bleeds into Edge Dancer, which we will not have time to talk about today. Can you believe that?
I know, but I think that's perfect.
But I don't want to, the last thing that majorly happens that I do want to touch on is that they go to Urithiru.
I pronounce it
But it starts with a U.
Yeah, Urithiru.
Well,
that's it. Urithiru. That's how it's pronounced.
So they end up there. They're able to use the big teleporty nether portal to get there.
Not nether portal. No, we're not calling it a nether portal.
Fine. It's a honor gate. It's
No. Close.
Sky gate.
Close.
No.
What do you swear?
Oath gate.
There you go.
An oath gate, and it's actually a fabrial of a magical kind that transports everything over.
Is it a fabrial? Do we know it's a fabrial?
Well, that's Shallan's assessment.
Well, the mechanism is definitely fabrial.
Yeah, and then when they end up in Urithiru, they're exploring the towers. A lot of people end up there. They use Renarins. No, they don't use. They use Shallan's shard blade, I think. They use a true living shard blade to get there, and then they find out, because Renarin does not like using his shard blade, they find out that he is also a Surge Binder, which is cool. It feels like something that you should have seen coming, right? And then what's the thing that I wanted to get to before we finish is that Adolin, while exploring these hidden towers of the old ancient city, runs into
none other than
Toriel Sadius. Sadius. How do you say it?
Sadius.
He runs into that guy, and then he killed him.
I wanna talk this a little bit more, just briefly. He had it coming, not only from what he did before, but what he said to Adolin then and there was deserving of death.
Oh yeah.
He has been pushing Adolin so hard to be better than his father in the way he wants him to be better than his father, and Adolin just cracked a little bit right there. And yeah, that squabble that they had in the darkness of that hallway is the most dark death that I can think of. Just two high princes just basically sweating in each other's, or just rubbing in each other's sweat, and then one comes out on top with a knife. They both know they can't use shard blades. Yeah. And then he drops it off the edge because he's like, I can't deal with this. And just he yeets Oathbringer right off the side out of the tower.
Yeah, so he yeets, I don't remember what he did with Oathbringer, actually. I forget.
Oathbringer was, Dalinar's old sword.
Yeah.
But then when he dies, he's like, I don't know what to do with this. So he just drops it out the side of the tower.
So the thing, okay, all of that, Aelin kills Sadius, which is so cool,
And then lies about it.
and then lies about it. My favorite plot line throughout the book was Shallan's flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because we knew that Shallan had killed her father from the first book.
Yeah.
Because when she needed to surge bind the first time, when she needed to soul cast, she told the cryptics that truth because they were looking for truth, secrets, or whatever. And she said, "I killed my father." And they're like, "Yes, that's a juicy one. We love that." And then she was able to soul cast. But so we knew she killed her father. But this entire thing was this entire like flashback buildup was showing how she killed her father and what happened. And throughout the flashbacks, we are led to believe that Shallan's father had killed Shallan's mother, and that in the little lockbox behind the painting, he hides her mother's soul.
Yeah.
And you haven't played this game, The Return of the Obra Dinn?
That sounds so familiar. I've never played it, but the name sounds like.
So there's a thing in The Return of Obra Dinn which reminded me of this scene so strongly. So she sees this blinding, bump the mic again. She sees this blinding, glowing light coming out from behind the painting. And in The Return of Obra Dinn, if you're on a ship, if you look over the horizon, there's just a glowing light coming off the horizon. And as you piece the story together, you learn what that blinding light is.
Oh, okay.
And so that just reminded me, like I was thinking of The Return of the Obra Dinn while I was reading that scene. And then, of course, as all of the story progresses, she does eventually kill her father. And of course, she reveals the one thing that I knew to be true from the very beginning of it all. It just needed to be confirmed on page. She killed her mother. And she used the very thing that is hiding behind the lockbox to do it.
Yeah.
Which was a shard dagger. Because she had a knife at the time. And it was, of course, pattern.
So there's two things I want to add since we're now talking about Shallan, Surge Binder, and then another new Surge Binder that enters the fray. Shallan killing her mother is incredibly, incredibly powerful, both narratively for what's to come for Shallan, of course, and just in that, like, reading about her. When I learned that, when I was reading, I was taken aback. I was like, wow, she's killed both her parents, doesn't have an older brother. Kaladin killed her older brother. And that is probably the turning point for me where I was like, maybe Shallan is a little bit interesting, seeing a little bit of this background information that wasn't so forefront. But the last thing I just want to mention is, do you remember who the new Surge Binder that kind of enters the game?
Oh, right, of course, because the story ends with one person, the very important person, two very important people learning how to Surge Bind. One, Dalinar goes up and speaks to the Stormfather and says the oath, and he binds the Stormfather. That's crazy. That's really cool, and I look forward to seeing how that is explored further. But then, of course, there is Lopin, who also starts healing his cut off arm, and in the epilogue or something.
Oh, that's great.
Which is really interesting. So Lopin desperately wanted to be a Surge Binder, and he got it.
Goncho, I'm a new Surge Binder.
Before we wrap up, Yasta's fucking alive?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
What?
Surprise!
No, I hate that. She's dead? She's dead to me. Anyway, with all of that said, that's about all the time that we have for today. It's unfortunate. I really wanted to get into Edge Dancer as well, but we'll get into Edge Dancer next time around. Thank you all for listening. If there's anything that we didn't discuss in these books that you feel like was an important aspect to talk about, please let us know, and we'll talk about it the next time we sit down to discuss Stormlight.
Absolutely. And I think that while we're talking about Edge Dancer next time, we'll touch up on some of the loose ends and stuff that we didn't get an opportunity to talk about today.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys
Goodbye.
so much. See ya.